Okay, Chairman, we're live, so you can begin the petition hearing when you're ready.
Thank you very much. Welcome to a virtual petition hearing of the London Borough of Hillingdon. This virtual meeting is also being broadcast simultaneously on the Council's YouTube channel, Hillingdon London. My name is Councillor John Riley, Cabinet Member for Public Safety and Transport, and I'm the Chairman of this meeting. A few online housekeeping issues. Please ensure that any mobile phones that are near or next to you are on silent. Please keep your microphone muted when not speaking and then unmute to speak. Only one person should speak at a time, and I as chairman will call those to speak and keep an eye on the room, or Steve will for me and let me know when people have indicated. In terms of technology and control of the meeting, if any councillor leaves the meeting partway through for a period of time or through lost connection or anything else, I will continue with the meeting. So I will now, because we are dealing with this petition in this way, move to a roll call of those who are in attendance. So the lead petitioner, Mr. Vickery, could you identify yourself and just say that you're here?
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, I'm David Vickery and I'm here.
Thank you very much. Councillor Chumdell.
Yes, Chairman, I am here.
Lovely to hear from you. Thank you. And we have officers in attendance as well. David Knowles.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is David Knowles. I'm the head of Transport and Town Centre Projects.
Thank you. Steve Austin.
Present Chairman, I'm Steve Austin, the Traffic, Parking, Road Safety and School Travel Team Manager at Hillingdon.
I think you've probably got the longest title in Hillingdon, which is great. And Steve Clark.
President Chairman, I'm a Democratic Services Officer.
All right, thank you. So we will go through the agenda as it is. We're now on item, where are we? 5, I think it is. Yeah. But before I do, just to say that, or to ask if anyone has any declarations of interest in matters coming before this meeting, I shall take silence as being not. To confirm the business of this meeting will take place in public. There are no part 2 parts to this. And to consider the report from the officers involving this petition, which is Hornbill Close, Uxbridge, petition requesting the introduction of a residence permit parking scheme. So initially what happens is that the lead petitioner, Mr. Vickery, has 5 minutes to talk. I can ask questions of you during the course of that, or well, in fact, I'll probably leave it towards the end. Your ward councillor has 3 minutes after that, and then we can have a discussion around the issues that you raise. So, Mr. Vickery, off you go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, in Hornbill Close, we've got 3 or 4 blocks of residential flats, and on our side of the Cowley Road, ours is the only residential street, and the rest of it is all industrial park and retail parks and things of that manner. The issue that we have in Hornbill Close is that a lot of the industrial workers are parking outside in the street, as it's non-residential at the moment, and there is such an amount that it is causing an issue with people that are living here that need to park their vehicles. Some more issues that we have as well are whenever anybody's been confronted about it, some of the residents have received verbal abuse from them. I know we have Uber taxis that park out there waiting for fares. They've parked on the double yellow lines that were painted there for the safety reasons. I submitted a picture along with the petition for that. And again, at that time, he jumped out and gave me some verbal abuse. And another big issue I've noticed, especially in the last year during COVID, is that the supermarkets are having trouble delivering shopping to the residents here. I know there are a few vulnerable people that live here that haven't been able to go to the shops because they've been isolating, but the supermarket deliveries haven't had anywhere to park to actually unload the shopping for these people. So that was a concern of mine. Yeah, so basically there's not enough parking in Hornbill Close for residents and workers and anybody else that wants to park in here, which is why we have requested for the resident permit holders only parking.
All right, thank you. I'll
Thank
come
you.
back. No, not at all. And your petition is very well put together and very well received. I'll come back to you in a moment. Councillor Chandal, do you want to have your 3 minutes?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, this is an ongoing issue. We did raise a petition in April 2020, and the main crux, Mr. Vickery has laid out really what the crux of the problem is. It's not as if it's a residential street and somebody parks an extra couple of cars there. It's a very famous, popular European car company, a German car company, and they regularly park 20-25 vehicles there. Correspondence, the resident that I have been dealing with for the last couple of years, he has sent letters to the MD even that, you know, this is unreasonable, and it is unreasonable. The most recent correspondence was about the double yellows because of the COVID. Steve replied about when they were going to be put in. They've been put in. Now the problem is other companies are also actually parking there, and it's a very good place to park. Actually, I park there when I go to do my bits and pieces for the party, and parking is available at the weekends especially. But during the week, it is horrible. It really is. As Mr. Vickery said, other companies are now parking there, and it's causing a lot of distress. The flats are great there, and the parking, I believe, should be adequate for that. But we have explained to the resident that we need to get a petition together and obviously put it before yourselves, so we could have some sort of correspondence with all the residents and see what they want. And I'm sure they'll be in agreement, and I definitely am, that with the resident parking, these other places should be using their own properties to park. You know, the car company has a lot of space there, but they're doing a lot of business and they're going to park wherever they can. The safety aspect, yes, absolutely. Coming out that corner, you take a right, cars are coming down. We've got speed cameras down there, but still, you know, you do hold your life in your hands because, you know, you could get, you looking left and right, and there's traffic coming from the other side as well. So I fully endorse it. We need to speak to all the residents, and we'll leave it to you, sir.
All right, thank you. When you talk of car companies, is that car hire companies or what?
It's Mercedes. They do both selling and there's repairs. So they have many bays there. So I think a lot of that is the repairs. You know, I've used that as well, that company as well. And they park their cars all spaces, and then throughout the day, then obviously they take it for their MOTs and repairs and all.
Yeah, and they have their own spaces within the curtilage. They
haven't got enough, obviously, because, you know, if you're going to be dealing with 60-70 cars a day, you know, there's no way they're going to have enough space. But that's not fair on the residents.
No,
it really is not.
All right. It did seem to me when I read this that there were two aspects to this. One was essentially antisocial behaviour, and then obviously the parking. But in a sense, they come together. But and I'm becoming more and more drawn to this idea, not just for this petition, but for others, that we can have very grown-up conversations with businesses about how their employees impact the lives of our residents, and how their behaviour, being in certain circumstances unacceptable, impacts on our residents. So in a sense, Mr. Vickery, we take away the prospect of you and your fellow residents being the target of any unpleasantness, which I find quite unacceptable, of course, because it's the council who are talking to these businesses and saying, look, this is what we're hearing, or at least this is what we are understanding, and it's not good enough, and you need to address it. So that's one direction of travel, if you like, dealing with the businesses directly themselves. Very often businesses would prefer to get on with their neighbours, and sometimes, let's put it this way, the management may not understand what's happening further down the line. But certainly, as far as, Councillor Chandal.
Sorry to interrupt, Chairman. we've had conversation. I've had in other areas. We've had conversation with businesses, and the first protocol is we're not doing anything wrong. We're parking our cars legally. If it's on the pavement, it could be illegal. If we're parking too close to another car, leaving only 4 millimeter space, that's illegal. But we're not doing anything illegal, so it's open season. And same with other people parking from across the road. There's houses, and it is a good place to park. So they're technically not doing anything wrong. So that's the kind of response I normally get.
Okay, well, we can. Well, I'm very grateful to you for that, but we can certainly pursue that anyway and see where we are. But in terms of a parking management scheme, David Knowles, help us with this.
Well, I think if you look at your screen now, hopefully, if the magic technology has worked, there are a few photographs which show the area that we're talking about. You'll be familiar. And clearly, we're talking about an area which is off the A48 Cowley Road, a fast road that goes down to Useley. And I'm sure a lot of people drive through here and wouldn't realise necessarily that there was a residential area around there. But clearly, all the businesses that you can see at the top there, the various businesses do know that there's a residential street around there with no parking controls. So the bottom pictures, I think, obviously I apologise, they're quite small. But we can see the point that there's the places where the people live. They've got some parking on one side of the road. There's a fence along the other side of the road. I'm very interested to know whether there's a large number of these people who are in fact the minicab drivers, the Uber drivers. I would say that whilst one shouldn't sort of try and tarnish everybody with the same brush, because there are some very responsible and upstanding members of the minicab driving community, I'm sure, but we do find that when there are problems, unfortunately, the people who have sometimes been urinating in the street and doing things like that, it's sometimes linked, unfortunately, to some of those people, whereas the businesses that are nearby, I would be a little more surprised if the people that actually work at those premises are the people that are doing these more antisocial behaviour issues. But that aside, if we come back to, here's a plan which shows, and hopefully you can see this now on your screen. In a sort of an overhead view, you've got the main road, then Hornbill Close, which is effectively a dead end, cul-de-sac, call it what you like. So it's not a road that leads anywhere other than to where the people live. Now, I'll let Steve tell us a little bit more about the technicalities of it, but it would have seemed at first sight that this would be an ideal location for a fairly new type of parking management scheme, which is called simply resident permit parking past this point. And basically what that means in simple terms is you put some signs up at the bottom end of Hornbill Close before you go in, and there's no reason to go in there and hope to park unless you are a resident or you have a permit to park. And it makes it an awful lot simpler in terms of implementing a scheme. I think at that point, if I let Steve perhaps come in and explain a little bit about how those things work, and so that the residents can understand the practicalities of that. Are you able to join us, Steve?
Yes, certainly. Thank you, David. Yeah, I mean, it does lend itself to a past this point type of scheme, and that negates the need for all the additional white box markings and bays and other bits and bobs. We would probably put up some repeater signs so there's no confusion, and no one can say that we were trying to entrap people by only putting a couple of signs at the start of the road. What I would say, though, there are some private parking areas in Hornbill Close, and the permit scheme wouldn't apply to those areas. They are separate. It would only be the areas shown in yellow, and if you were to park in there as a resident in the area in yellow on Hornbill Close, you would need a permit, or if you had visitors, they'd need a visitor's voucher. I suppose what would be helpful to understand is, presumably this is only a Monday to Friday issue, or are there issues at the weekend?
Mr. Vickery?
At the weekend, the parking is really, really good. And the issues only seem to be sort of up to 5:30 in the evening.
Okay, so there could be a couple of options we can discuss with the cabinet member and ward councillors, and then perhaps if we give some options to the residents as part of an informal consultation, they can then decide what will be best for them, really.
Mr. Vickery, what we have to do when we're considering putting in a parking management scheme is to go through a process of consultation with all the residents affected, and I have no doubt from what you've said in your petition and also from what you've told us today that I guess everybody is going to be. I mean, you've got a 26 signature petition already. I'm guessing that pretty much everybody will be in favour of some form, at least, of parking management scheme in favour of residents. And as you say, it's the problem from what you've said is weekdays. I don't know what 8 till 5 in the afternoon, and then or maybe 5:30, and then weekends is not too bad at all because the weight of traffic coming into that immediate area isn't quite so bad. Have I got that right?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you so much. All right, well, look, it's clearly something that is of enormous concern for local residents, and I fully take on board what you've said, and I'm grateful for your petition. I still think that there may be an element of antisocial behaviour and enforcement that we can talk with our colleagues in those. That's the other side of my portfolio, as it were. So we can engage with them, especially in regard to the sorts of behaviour that you've detailed in your submissions, because it's just unacceptable. We can't be having that. So maybe some form of attendance patrol, something like that. Just to reinforce the message. But again, I'm very conscious of the fact that if the council is doing it, it takes the pressure off residents looking like they've done something, if that makes sense. And it's clearly an official approach. So on the basis of what you've said, my recommendation and decision is that we should take up your request that there be a parking management scheme looked into as far as this implementation is concerned. As I say, it will need to go through a process of consultation. Steve, can you give us an idea about the sort of timescale?
I'd like to have a discussion with you outside of the meeting, Chairman, on the programme and what we've got going on at the moment, because it is an extensive programme of works. But obviously, thinking if this is one road on its own, then it's not as arduous as doing a whole area-wide scheme. But it's something that I'd like to have a chat with you about. Okay,
all right. So not possible to be specific about timing, but on the basis of what I've decided, we will be taking this application forward. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Are you happy with that, Mr. Vickery?
Mr. Chairman, I'm more than happy with that. Thank you very much. Just on the subject of the antisocial behaviour, I am in talks with our local ward Safer Neighbourhoods team as well.
Oh, good.
Just to cover things on that side.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean that's another good approach, and it just sometimes just the sight of a uniform is enough to move people on, and but again, having that conversation, not necessarily blaming anybody, but just giving people a gentle reminder about behaviour it can be a good thing. All right. Well, thank you for those for what you're doing down there and for bringing the petition before me. Unless there's anything else from anybody else, Councillor Chandel, you got anything finally to add? Or
yes, very happy about that. Thank you very much for that, sir. Okay,
no problem. All right. Thank you, everybody. And whenever Steve is ready to turn the broadcast off, he can.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.